Fun with Stories. This podcast contains audio advertising. To hear it without ads, download the Fun with Stories app now. Welcome to Fun with Stories, the podcast where words come to life through exciting adventures and laugh-out-loud moments. Every episode, we take a tricky word, throw it into a fun-filled story featuring your favorite fairy tale and folk story characters, and make sure you'll never forget it. So, are you ready to learn new words the fun way with Little Red Riding Hood, Puss in Boots, the Gingerbread Man, Snow White, and more? Then let's jump into today's adventure on Fun with Stories.
Harmony in the Howling. At midnight, the town goes wild with weird sounds. Can Jane solve the case before the next moo honk crash wakes up the whole block? Whisper Street was never very quiet, but it had never been this loud. It all started on a Wednesday night. At exactly 12:01 a.m., Jane Carter sat up in bed. A terrible noise rattled her window. It was howling, crashing, clanging, honking, all at once, like the world was having a noisy tantrum. Her baby sister cried. Her parents jumped out of bed. Even the goldfish swam in frantic circles. "It sounds like a traffic jam at a zoo," Jane whispered. But the noise didn't stop the next night, or the night after that. By the fourth night, the whole neighborhood was tired and worried. "This isn't just noise," said Mrs. Lynn. "It's a cacophony, a loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds that hurts our ears and scares people." Even school was different. Kids were sleepy. One teacher wore earmuffs. Jane's best friend, Tasha, whispered, "My dad says if it keeps going, we might move away." Jane didn't want that. She had to figure out what was going on. Every night she listened, and every night the noise got louder. Not just honks and barks now, but squeals, screeches, and weird crackly sounds like a robot having a bad day. The strangest part, no one could find where the sound was coming from. It wasn't any house, or the school, or even the nearby factory. "I think it's cursed," one kid said. "Maybe it's a sound monster," said another. Jane didn't believe in curses or monsters, but this noise, it felt different. She needed to find the truth. She packed her flashlight, her notebook, and her noise-canceling headphones. She told herself, "I'm going out tonight, even if I have to follow that loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds into the woods." At 11:58 p.m., Jane left her house quietly. The streets were dark and still, lit only by stars and street lamps. At exactly 12:01, the noise started again. Clang! Honk! Scree! Jane followed it past the library, past the tennis courts, all the way to the old abandoned park. There, under the full moon, she saw the strangest thing ever. A band, but not a band of people. She saw a group of animals, a dog, a cat, a raccoon, and even some birds, standing in a circle near the old fountain, and in the middle of them was a dusty, broken robot. It was half covered in Christmas lights and vines, as if it had been there a long time. Jane gasped and hid behind a bush. She was a little scared. Were the animals wild? Would they chase her? But then she noticed they weren't acting mean. In fact, they seemed a little lost. One of the dogs wagged its tail. The raccoon was banging on a pot lid like a drum. The robot looked like it had been part of the park long ago. Maybe a science fair project or an old toy display. The robot blasted static from broken speakers. The cat screeched into a toy megaphone. It wasn't music. It was a mess. A loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds. A cacophony. Jane took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Stop!" Everything froze. A pot lid fell with a clang. She pointed toward the group. You're the reason no one can sleep. This is a cacophony, a loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds that hurts our ears and scares people. The robot blinked. We thought we were making music. Jane lowered her flashlight. I think you were trying, but music needs rhythm and teamwork. Right now, it's just a loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds, a cacophony. The animals looked sad. Even the robot buzzed quietly. Jane thought for a moment. But maybe I can help. She showed them how to play one at a time, how to keep a steady beat, and how to really listen. She brought real instruments from her school's donation box. She even helped the robot fix its broken speaker and turn its static into a simple drum beat. A week later, the group performed again, this time at 6 p.m., not midnight. The whole neighborhood came to listen. They clapped and smiled. It's not a loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds anymore, said Tasha. It's real music. Jane grinned. Exactly. Cacophony is what happens when no one listens. Music is what happens when everyone works together. That night, she wrote in her detective notebook, Case closed, midnight cacophony solved. Cacophony is a loud, unpleasant mixture of sounds that make your ears say, no thanks. Solution, teamwork, timing, and a little tuning. And now when Jane hears a strange sound at night, she listens, just in case it's music waiting to be discovered.
Let's take a closer look at the new word you just heard in the story. That word is cacophony. Spelling C-A-C-O-P-H-O-N-Y, cacophony. Meaning: a cacophony is a loud, jumbled mix of harsh sounds, the kind that makes you cover your ears. Synonyms: racket, noise, din, clatter. Antonyms: silence, calm, hush, quiet. Examples: the classroom turned into a cacophony of shouting and laughter when the power went out. Before the orchestra began properly, their warm-up sounded like a cacophony. Learning a word like cacophony helps you hear the difference between noise and music. Try using it the next time something's just too loud to ignore.
And that brings us to the end of today's adventure. We've explored a brand new word, had some fun with our favorite storybook characters, and now it's your turn to use it in real life. Want more fun stories and exciting words to learn? Download the Fun with Stories app for extra content, activities, and even more magical word adventures. Thanks for listening, and remember, words are powerful when you make them yours. See you next time on Fun with Stories.